Hello there, and welcome to my tutorial series for Cities Skylines 2. In this one, I will guide you through everything you need to know to build up a fine city in this game. I will take this in a beginner-friendly way, so I'm really trying to do my best to make things as easily accessible as possible, and I'm not going to overplan or over-optimize things, so you can take a approach that is hopefully easy to pick up for everybody. Now, in each and every episode, I will cover a few topics. For today, we're going to cover electricity, water, the first few zone assignments, and the basic outlining of our miniature city with a couple of thoughts for the things on the horizon. There's timestamps down below, so if you want to check out a certain aspect of the video, if you don't need any part of it, go knock yourself out and just browse ahead. Before I get started for real, I want to point real quick to PayPal, Patreon, and Buy Me a Coffee, which are the topmost links down below. I'd be really happy if you'd consider supporting this channel. If you like this kind of videos, I'd be really happy about some help. Either way, I'm really happy that you're around, so let's get started with the first few things. We need electricity and water to actually get a city running. So electricity we can get via producing it in either a coal power plant or wind turbines. In this tutorial, I will not go for wind turbines because they are a lot more complicated and way less straightforward to use compared to a coal power plant. The coal power plant's main downsides are the pollution it produces, so we have to take care to place it in the correct spot. The arrows that you see are the general wind direction, and since this thing is spitting out air pollution, we should consider putting it not into the direction where we later want to build our residential district. We also see this blinking thing here, which is the power line that connects our city with the rest of the outside world. So we're going to set our coal power up somewhere down here because I have planned already where my industry will be. I'll be explaining that in a hot minute. We're going on over to the roads menu, and here I'm going to go for the medium roads because this will be a pretty important part of our road network. We're going to go for the bigger one right away. So I'm going to connect this part here with road that connects our city with the highway network, and I'm going to draw a nice long road over to this part. This will connect the power plant with the rest of our city. So roads already include a connection that has a power line in it. So when we set the power plant right next to the road, it will connect to the road, and everything connected to the road will also have power. It's a pretty neat and easy to understand system. Now, what's left to do is we need to connect our power plant with the outside world. So we go back to the lightning bolt menu and select the power line. You click on here, and then you connect it like that.
Second Moon Radio with your host,
Or, well, here it doesn't work because it overlaps slightly with the coal power plant. If you have that kind of issue, you just place down one of these, and then we go over around the corner. Sometimes it's a little bit like that. So, what's that good for, you might ask yourself? Well, all the power that we're currently not using will furthermore be exported to the rest of the world, which is pretty cool because that gives us back a little bit of the upkeep costs of the power plant. So the other thing we need to take care of now is water. So water can either be taken out of the groundwater via groundwater pumping stations. You need to place them on the top side of these blue blots, or you can go for a water pumping station, which will take it from the river. I personally prefer the pump stations from the river because they are virtually endless, or at least I haven't found a limit to river water or ocean water, well, lakeside water yet. Whereas the groundwater pumping stations, they will deplete the groundwater over the course of the time if you overuse it. So it's just easier to maintain, in my humble opinion. So the arrows show you the flow direction of the water, which will be important in the next step. First off, though, let's place down the water pumping station right there. It'll require now a road. We're going back to the small roads, pick up to a 2-lane road, and I'm going to go here. And you will notice that it snaps to the building when you have it at the right spot. And now we will pipe that road down here. So this thing is now connected to the road, which means it also has power, and that's that. Also neat, water is also automatically included inside the roads, so we don't need to draw any water pipes manually. They are automatically drawn together with the roads, which is really, really nifty. So what's left now to do is we need a sewage outlet. Really important, always put the sewage outlet behind the pump station. So what comes out of here, we really don't want to pump that in. So we're going to put the sewage outlet here, as close to a border as possible, and henceforth the logic is quite simple. Further pumping stations will be placed here, whereas further sewage outlets, if we need them, will be placed down there, so we don't have a accidental intake of polluted water. Really important. Now, only one thing left to do about the water and sewage thing. We need to connect the sewage pipe with the sewage pipe of our road system. So this is what we need. You again move the cursor closer to that and you know it'll snap to it. Left click and connect it to the road. Boom, that's that. Your city now has electricity and sewage. At least it should have. There we go. It'll take a moment to jump into action. Your coal needs to be imported first, but all in all, we have now the very basics of our infrastructure running. And here you can see we have 20 megawatt of electricity available, and we're exporting 20 megawatt of electricity right away, which allows us to generate money, which is really cool. So next step, we're going to consider where the people will actually live. So we need an area where we can have housing. You find the zoning tools here. And we need housing, we need commercial districts for the people to shop at, and we need industrial zones for the people to work at. Well, shopping is also kind of a job thing, but mostly industrial and office districts provide the jobs. So we need to plan, therefore, where these people will live. And planning is one really darn important thing about this game. But I want to take one thing right away. Everything in this game is replaceable and changeable to your own will. So don't you ever get the wrong idea that you could be building something so wrong that you cannot fix it. Not at all. Many things in this game are very easily fixable. Some do need a little bit more tinkering, but everything, for example, this coal power plant is relocatable. When you click it, you often have, or almost always have, this little button which allows you to move these buildings somewhere else. This means you have a lot of flexibility. Now, when we want to plan where our city is going to be, the first thing that I want to recommend to you is always leave some extra room for roads and for traffic. So here we're going to draw another road on this axis, just riding alongside here. This will be where our industry will live. Since the wind direction is this way, we're going to use the entirety of the southern belt here for industry, because everything that comes up north of here will not have stink in their noses. Now, we need to put up next an area where people will have their housing at. So we're going to go for another crossing, which will go, well, let's go upstairs here. and I'm going all the way up here. Roads are ridiculously cheap in this game, and it's really not a bad idea at all to have a extensive road network right from the get-go. So I'm placing down a lot of roads here and placing down already a little bit of a grid network which allows me to put up a little bit of a segmentation into all this. So what I want to do now is, first up, I want to have one road like here that connects this whole madness here in the center, and we're going to use this quadrant here as our first city core, however you want to call it. We're going to have residential and commercial areas here, and from that point on, our city will grow into all manner of different directions. Now, we are going to draw yet another road, but a small road now in between, and I'm going to take it from here. Pay attention to this circle. I want to try to have the circle covering as much of that area which has no squares on it as possible, and we draw it all over way here. So as you noticed, we have now most of that space here usable. We're going to continue doing that a couple of times, just like that. When you're drawing roads, always take into account that junctions are producing traffic or are hindering traffic. So what I'm doing here is actually really good for the space economy, but actually really bad for the traffic. So you should always take that into account, that when it comes down to roads and junctions, you should always have as many junctions as you need, but as few as possible, which is a real piece of art and a big challenge. So we have unlocked our first milestone. This game has an experience point system. Whenever you build something, whenever people move into your city, you gain experience points. These milestones unlock new features. We're going to go over all these things step by step, just meant to explain it real quick. Most importantly, we also were allowed to expand our city now on new quadrants here, but I'm not going to do that now. We don't need that right now. So with that segmentation, I'm currently somewhat happy-ish. The only thing that I'm missing is some extra roads for the industrial area. So I'm picking again here the medium roads for the industrial area there. So we're going to go that way with our road and put it, well, it's a little bit too close to the border, and we're going to put it right there. So this piece of road is the exit, the connection of our road with the local highway. This highway connects our road with the rest of the world. So everybody who's coming from our city will have to take that exit, and everybody who wants to enter our city has to take that entry point as well. So this is basically the bottleneck of our city right now. We will change that later, but for now, this is almost as good as I want it to be. We're just going to put up a couple of small roads in between. I picked the small roads for the segments in between because they won't be as heavily frequented as the outside roads. I'm already considering which roads will be more important than others. You should always try to have the proper size of a road for its task. Don't overshoot. No need to go for the biggest size of a road if it's just going to be a little intersection. Okay, with that kind of segmentation, we're gonna work. Keep in mind, if you don't like that one, you can always change it up, do it to your own liking. This is a very free game, and there is no such thing as the one correct solution, by all means. No, not at all. All right, so let's move on to our next task. Let's talk about the whole zoning deal. We have had a little bit of theoretical thoughts so far about where I think my people will live at and the industry will live at and such things, but now let's talk about how this zoning menu really works. You have down here these bars and they show you the demand of your city. So here we see we have a particularly high demand of low density residential areas. So let's fulfill that. We select this low density housing area, and now we can select some of these squared areas and paint them with the assignment there. So I'm going to unpause the game now, and I'm just going to click in here and assign that area, and you can already see how the demand goes down. You can either paint the area with a drag and drop area with drag and drop method like this one, or you can also have a freestyle painting brush. What matters is these squared areas should be always assigned completely or in a manner that the lines that touch the road must be assigned. If the squares that touch the road are not assigned, nothing will be built. If basically you would do something like, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about, a wrong example. This is, as you see, nothing is being built here. So
demand have led to temporary local shortages in the city's
So,
fresh water supply.
that's how you not should do it. So we're going to revert that by just right-clicking that, and that's how you revert an assignment. You can also always overpaint an assignment, but you shouldn't do that with something that's already in construction. So we have a lot of other demands here as well, and I thought I had turned these ads off, but whatever. All right. Now we see that we also have a demand of medium density housing, commercial, and industrial. So the industrial demand, let's fulfill that next with the yellows. We put that down here. And now to the commercial zones. So the commercial zones are where you people will go to shop. The residential areas, there's two types of them, medium and low density. Medium density, as the name implies, houses more people on less space. And what's important to note is low density housing, the people that live there, they really don't like to have higher density housing in their vicinity. The vicinity to medium density housing immediately lowers the attractiveness for the low density housing people. Also, the commercial zones exude a low amount of noise pollution, which will lead to less attractiveness also for the low density housing. You can picture low density housing things as the typical suburban things where people like to have their family growing up and they enjoy the peaceful life and they don't want the ruckus of the big city, so to say. And therefore, we're going to try to build the commercial areas as kind of a buffer between the industrial area and the residential area, because the commercials, they won't care about the noise pollution of the industry. They also won't care about the slight air pollution of the industry, and they, so to say, serve as a shield against the industry in between the residential area. So we're going to have it like this. The medium density housing area now resides in the northernmost section of the city, well on a fair distance of the low density housing. The low density housing will reside in the center of this block here, and we're going to line it with some commercial areas that will provide our people a opportunity to shop at and have some jobs in the industrial area. This is just an example of how you can string up your city's desires and services. And there's a lot of different ways how you can resolve that. So these are the basics of how to string up these things. Of course, there's a lot of other things to pay attention to, but I'm going to cover these in the upcoming episodes. For now, I'll leave it like that. This will give you the tools in hand to expand your city and get your feet wet in that department. So we're going to cover in the next episode the first few things in terms of city services, like hospitals and landfill, the garbage disposal. I'm going to talk about services a little bit more thoroughly in general, and lots of other fun things in between. I really hope that you're enjoying this as much as I do. We're going to build this city together. Feel free to leave me a thumbs up on this episode and consider subscribing. I'd be deeply delighted to have you guys. And at this point, I want to thank all the supporters of this channel. I deeply appreciate all your help, and I also appreciate everybody hanging out on this video at the very end. I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you on the next episode as well, when we're going to expand this wonderful little city. See you there. Bye bye.